I welcome you all for this session. Today, let us discuss about the role of caste system in Indian village structure. As we all are aware, the caste system has been an integral part of rural India. It acts as the most powerful determinant of individual behavior and social order in the rural unity. It also determines the role and status of an individual. Hutton says that the system provides him from birth a fixed social milieu from which neither wealth or property nor success or disaster can remove him unless, of course, he so violates standards of behavior laid down by the caste. Caste also guides the behavior, interaction, conduct and association of the individual in the society. It helps maintain the continuity of social order by preserving its pattern of culture and tradition. It plays a vital role in the process of socialization by teaching individuals the culture and tradition as also values and norms of their society. It unifies society in a chain by assigning different places and position to different groups. It works as the basis of division of labor in society, which keeps society away from tensions and conflict arising out of competition for occupation, power and prestige. Caste also has a deep influence in the village religious lives of people. The notion of karma and dharma kept social and economic system of the village intact. Performance of rituals, worshipping of different kinds of gods and goddesses, the celebration of festivals are all determined by the caste system in the rural areas. According to Dr. A.R. Desai, in India, caste largely determines the function, the status, the available opportunities as well as the handicaps for an individual. Caste differences even reflect the differences in modern domestic and social life, that is, types of houses and cultural pattern of the people which are found in the rural areas. Even land ownership exists frequently on caste lines. Due to a number of reasons, administrative functions have often been divided according to caste, especially in the rural areas. Caste has further determined the pattern of the complicated religious and secular culture of the people. Caste system has a wider influence in the Indian rural society, which is evident in the functional role in villages. Caste system in India is only analyzed on the basis of structural and cultural aspects. Endogamy, that is marrying within local community, caste hierarchy and caste occupations are some of the structural features of caste system, whereas values refer to the cultural aspects of the caste system. Though caste system is found both in rural and urban areas, it has more defined roles and or dimensions or objectives in rural society. For example, caste and family structure, caste and value system, caste and political life, caste and rural leadership, we will discuss in detail. Let us discuss about caste and family now. A caste in the rural areas is generally a cluster of joint families. The caste system embraces certain castes into a cluster which results in joint families being engaged in the particular profession collectively. A.R. Desai emphasizes that there is a correlation between caste and joint family system. Actually, it is the caste structure which determines the nature of family as joint or nuclear in the village. It is observed all over the villages in India that a caste in the rural society is essentially a cluster of joint families. Resultantly, the caste molds the nature of the life and occupation of the members of its family. Thus, the caste has a definite role in the structure and functioning of rural society. Despite this, it is the caste identity and character which determines to a great extent the nature of rural society. Although most of the amenities of modernity like electricity, cooking gas, tap water, telephone, television, internet and the like have reached the doors of the villages, the caste still remains the predominant factor in binding the village life. Now, let us see the caste and value system. It is a caste that determines the ideas and pattern of life in rural area. Hence, the rural value system is dependent upon the caste. The values and norms are different between caste groups in a rural society. An individual's life passes through birth, adolescence, betrothal, marriage and death. On all these occasions, there is a definite and defined role of caste. Whatever may be the secular status of a Brahmin, but his presence to officiate becomes obligatory towards fulfillment of rituals on the major phases of life. A Brahmin is indispensable for performance of marriage as well as the last rites at the cremation. In metropolitan cities, some of these rituals might be overlooked or diluted or undermined, but in rural areas the caste specific rituals are most essential. There are other value systems that prohibit marriage of one's own sister or even agnates, means descendants from same male as ancestors. In the same analogy, marriage within the gotra or clan too is forbidden. The practice or rule of exogamy, marrying outside a community, are observed strictly in village society. However, there are regional variations, especially in southern India and northeast India. Remarriage of women is banned in upper caste people, whereas the same is not considered a taboo or outlawed among the lower caste people. Sometimes there is a practice of village exogamy also. The caste groups of people consider it a denigration to marry within the same village. Let us see the caste and education. Caste system determines the pattern of education one should achieve. The higher caste people tend to move out of the village for higher education, while the lower caste hesitate to send their children for higher education due to poor economic conditions. The children of the lower caste axiomatically get trained in their own profession. Moreover, education is not evaluated from the standpoint of individual development or social advancement, but merely of the tradition that identifies with that caste. Therefore, it is appropriate to mention that even the education of a person depends primarily upon the caste tradition. Let us see the caste and economic life. The caste system determines the profession of villagers. The rural occupations are divided on the basis of prevalent caste system. The higher caste people exercise control over agriculture. The lower caste people are basically tradesmen, that is carpenters, blacksmith, cobblers, labourers. The higher caste people on the whole control the economy of rural society. Agricultural production happens to be the main occupation in rural areas, and the higher caste people control the production and economy of the village. They distribute the production among themselves. Regarding consumption of food too, the higher caste people have the final say. The caste system determines the food and dress habits of the people, as also the choice of utensils and other articles of use by its members. The conspicuous feature of rural economic life is its indebtedness. The lower caste people, by virtue of their poor yield from their respective caste occupation, remain indebted to the upper caste people. These lower caste people are virtually hereditary debtors. The castes decide the habitation and living of the caste groups. The higher caste people dwell in clean and healthy areas where all the facilities including water is available. On the contrary, the lower caste people live in unclean areas which are the outskirts of the village. The caste directs how the houses should be built by the lower caste people. Due to caste system, the economic mobility of the people is stratified. The higher caste people choose the profession of their choice, but the lower caste people are denied change in their profession. Thus, the caste system has an adverse effect on the economic condition of the rural people. Actually, the village economy a few years back has been dependent on the Jajmani system. Each caste has had its occupational specification, that is tailor, barber, dhobi, chamar, potter, cobbler and so on. These castes offered their services to their jajmans or clients on an exchange basis. The rewards generally consisted of payments in kind, that is the barter system. On the whole, when analyzed, the caste economy promotes occupational interdependence. Although the Jajmani system today is on the verge of extinction, few occupational services are still in practice with payments in kind or in cash. The caste system fosters interdependence among different castes in village setup. A.R. Desai has argued that the village economy needs to be studied from the point of view of caste. It is a caste which mainly determines the economic life of the people. Despite diversification in village economy, even today traditional occupations determine the wealth status of the people. The caste has a role in production relations. It is actually said that in any part of the country, habitation pattern of the village is determined by specific caste clusters. Whatever may be the future of caste in India, it is an indisputable fact that the belongingness to a caste not only determines the pattern of settlement, but also reveals the type of dwelling units the people would build. Economic mobility of a person or a cluster of families is also determined by the correlation of their caste as prevalent in the village, as these are intertwined. There are some castes who have dispensed with or discontinued their traditional occupation, while at the same time there are others who stringently follow their traditional occupations. In future studies that may be undertaken on rural society, the importance of occupational mobility and social mobility are required to be dovetailed and analyzed in context of caste belongings. Now, let us see the caste hierarchy and political life. Social interactions in the village are guided by caste status. Caste in fact is a system of hierarchical relations. It is a pyramid of hierarchy where at the top are Brahmins, followed by Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. As per A.R. Desai, caste has influenced the psychology of various social groups and has graded levels of social distance and superior inferior relationships, that the social structure looks like a gigantic hierarchic pyramid with a mass of untouchables as its base and a small strata of elite, that is the Brahmins, almost equally unapproachable at its apex. The Hindu society is composed of hundreds of distinct self-contained caste worlds piled one over the other. In any region, it is a caste settlement in terms of its power in a particular village which becomes the identifying factor. S.C. Dubey in his book India's Changing Villages talks about Rajput village, implying that in a particular village the Rajputs wield power. They maintain the village system. Similarly, we have Jat village, Tevar village, Brahmin village and so on. In such villages, other castes who are present are only subordinates to the predominant caste inhabiting it, and further in such scenario establishes the very structure of that village purely by the name of the said caste. M. Srinivas has given the concept of dominant caste. This is a caste which has a numerical strength in the village. It owns major portion of village land and takes major decisions which maintain the village system. It is a dominant caste which rules over the village. The concept of dominant caste very clearly shows that there are few castes which exercise their hold on the village. Besides Srinivas, there are other sociologists who opine that despite sociological changes and developments in villages, the dominant castes continue to occupy pivotal status in rural society. Although the power of caste is slowly losing its prominence, it is very pertinent to note that in this day and age, caste associations and institutions are becoming much stronger, especially in political matters. The caste associations make most of the political decisions in rural society. Currently, lots of changes are observed in the village setup, wherein the secular operations are slowly replaced due to economic mobility. Multifarious occupations have been adapted by the village people irrespective of their caste or religion. Notwithstanding that, there is a clear trend in these people to migrate to the cities and towns for various reasons, that is for education, occupation, health, improved facilities and fascination for the city life and so on. The caste continues to remain an indelible mark of identity among the village people. It is appropriate to mention here that the empowerment of women and Panchayat Raj in the village setup has paved the way for decentralization of power. Nowadays, the rural people stand to benefit from the rural development programs of the government. In addition to this, towards welfare of the SCs and backward communities, special central assistance is being provided, keeping in view the socio-economic and educational development. Let us discuss this in detail in our next session. Thank you.